12th Planning Commissioners meeting today. Welcome, Planning Commission members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are here today to ensure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and members of the public are able to participate in the meeting at the appropriate times.
If you're here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Okay, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Causey? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Harp?
Here.
Ms. Kovney?
Here.
And we have quorum.
Let me give a brief review of the meeting format. Applicants with requests before the Planning Commission are allowed a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Planning Commission or staff regarding requests. During the public comment period, members of the general public are given an opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. After the public comment period, applicants have 5 minutes to respond. Once the Planning Commissions begin deliberation, no additional comments will be permitted by the applicant or the public. The administrator has a timer and will make presenters aware when their time has expired. The Planning Commission reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes since publication.
The Planning Commission uses a consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. Examples of such items include the approval of site plans, annexations, and street names. If a member of the Planning Commission or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, you must speak up at the consent agenda after the consent agenda is read. Then that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The Planning Commission then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will the staff read the consent agenda?
Sure. So the first item is to approve the May 8th, 2025 minutes. The first case on the consent agenda is the future land use amendment and zoning amendment for a pending annexation, Annex-2025-0011, 283 Jacobs Mill Pond Road, also known as 180 Golf View Bend. Request recommendation on the assignment of the land use classification of Urban Edge Residential Large Lot, UER2, and the assignment of zoning of Planned Development District, PD, for a pending annexation. The property is currently classified as neighborhood, medium density, and zoned Planned Development, PD, by Richland County. The next case on consent is a preliminary plat review, S-Plat-2024-0035, 1000 Block Cameron Ridge Drive. Request preliminary plat approval for the construction of a 295 lot attached single-family residential subdivision, the Cameron Ridge Townhomes. The properties are zoned MU1, Mixed Use District, and RSF3, Residential Single Family Small Lot District. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the Planning Commission or the public that would like to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda subject to all conditions contained in the case summaries as well as the May 8th minutes?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the May 2025 minutes and the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we move forward with the consent agenda items as presented. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We will now move forward with the items on the regular agenda. We will use the following outline for regular agenda items. The administrator will introduce the case. The applicant will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. Planning Commission may ask questions. The public comment period will be open to those present. The public comment period will be closed. The applicant will have 5 minutes to respond to the public comments. Planning Commission may ask additional questions of the applicant. Deliberation and action then occurs by the Planning Committee. Once the Planning Commission begins deliberation, no additional comments will be permitted by the applicant or the public.
Hi, good afternoon. So we do have two separate cases on the regular agenda. They are different kinds of cases. One is an annexation with the recommendation for zoning and land use classification, and the other one is a rezoning request, but they are similar requests with the same applicant and obviously on adjacent properties, so it's really altogether one thing. So if it's okay with the board, I think it may be good just to talk about both of them at the same time. However, there will need to be separate motions for each one. So the first case is, it's Annex 2025-0012, and that's 1703 Atlas Road. And this property is tax map number 163010204, and it's a request for a recommendation on the assignment of land use classification of industrial and the assignment of zoning of heavy industrial HI for a pending annexation. The property is currently classified as Economic Development Center / corridor and zoned light industrial, which is also known as M1 in Richland County. And the second one is ZMA 2025-001, which is 1801 Smith Street, and it's a portion of that property. So it's a portion of tax map numbers 163010206 and 163010212. And again, it's a request for a recommendation to rezone the property from light industrial, LI, to heavy industrial. So in both these cases, the request is to bring in the property as heavy industrial or to rezone a portion of the property to heavy industrial. What is included in your packet and is regrettably not in the presentation is a delineation of where on the parcels that are inside the city the request is for heavy industrial. It is not the entirety of the parcel. It's about 4 acres. And while it is in the packet for that rezoning, just to kind of describe where it is, if you can see the wooded tract behind the parcel that's being annexed. So that parcel that's being annexed is currently Suncoast Resources that, if you're familiar with the area, once upon a time was Marwin Windows and Doors. There's a wooded parcel behind it, wooded tract, I would say, and it roughly follows that tree line as it zigzags back and then going straight back towards I-77. So it is the portion that is closest to the railroad tracks. Staff is not recommending approval of this request, and primarily because of the purpose of the heavy industrial district, which of course is for the highest intensity uses that we allow in the city, and the proximity of those uses to the residential properties to the southwest. At the closest point, it's about 180 feet. But that said, the applicant is here and will, I'm sure, be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to come forward and present your case?
Hey, my name's George McCutcheon, and I have some handouts that I think would be very helpful for everybody to go through if we can get those, please. And I'll kind of walk through each page together once everybody's got it. So as you see on the first page there, 1703 Atlas Road is Suncoast Resources. They're in the county as M1 right now, and they are operating. They've been there for 8 years, and they actually have another place nearby there that they have been operating in the same county, M1, since 1987. So been a long time and a company that's good here. We've got kind of what I'll see as a gray area where you've got a company that's operating and wants to grow in this existing building, and then they want to have their parking with their trucks behind it, and we're trying to help them grow. And we wouldn't have asked for it to be annexed into the city as heavy industrial, except for we have to have access to a main road. And there are 3 driveways that they would continue to use, so they won't be going anywhere else on the property. And what Andrew mentioned, I think, is important to look at is the very last page where we would have a line of trees. So you can kind of see where this area going back out to the interstate would be on that very last page. And that gives you an idea. We did not want to have to apply for heavy industrial. I'll be perfectly direct. We're kind of being pushed into this, and I know we can't do contract zoning, but I'm from Columbia. I want to have, this be good. So we're going to, if we're approved by y'all in city council, we're going to deed restrict it to all the other heavy industrial uses of odors and noise and other stuff like that. I know that can't be a contingency, but that's just what we're going to do after the fact. Because all we're trying to do is grow this business, this company here, and let them be able to park their trucks in the back that they need as they expand and grow. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors. We've got 5 letters of recommendation. The first one there from Don Tomlin's company, Hallmark Land Investments, then Carter Lumber, Davis. Anyway, we've done our homework and tried to coordinate with folks and make them aware of what's going on. You'll also see the next to the last page, there is heavy industrial nearby in the area. It's not adjacent, but you'll see this one with the dark colors on it. So diagonally across the interstate, there is heavy industrial there. It's not contiguous. So if you see that's part of it, that we think it does make it okay in that area. And then again, we're going to, after the fact, can't be contingent on that, but that's just what we're going to do, deed restrict it. And we're not asking for rezoning of all 13 acres to heavy industrial, just the 4 acres behind it as shown on that last slide there. But again, we've kind of got what I think is a gray area that unfortunately there's a mismatch between the county and the city's zoning. It's allowed in the county under light industrial, but not in the city. And so that's why we're having to be here. Also, there were a variance we were told was not a possibility in this scenario. They've invested a lot of money in that facility. They'd like to grow here. Their other option is to move to Augusta or Charlotte, perhaps. I can't find anything else here in Columbia, so that would be a loss for the city. And that's mostly what I think the project is about. What questions might I be able to answer, excuse me.
Questions from the Planning Commission? I have a question, if no one else does. Have you consulted with any of the residents in the community around the property?
Yes, I have. I actually went on Memorial Day morning to hand out flyers and discuss it with the neighbors to everyone that is in that Smith Street area that comes down to Shop Road and goes up Atlas Road. I think it's 17 folks there, and so I gave them a letter explaining the project and have talked with the folks nearby, yes.
Do you have a response from them? I see where there are people in your notes that, that own property that gave you some feedback, but have you gotten anything directly from the residents in writing or anything?
Not in writing, no, but I did talk to some of them and gave them the information about the project and asked for them to reach out to me if they had any questions, and I have not heard from any residents, any of those residents.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I tried.
I got a question for staff, and I mean, it sounds like you have spoken with them. Light industrial, heavy industrial, same setback, right? I know there's a front setback, but just want to make sure that it's the same setback, correct? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
I can double check that real quick. I mean, the primary difference are the uses that are allowed.
Understood.
yeah.
Just curious if there's a use and it's butt up against it versus 50 feet as a buffer yard.
Right.
And there's obviously no difference with the LI and the HI from what I've understood.
Sure.
Okay.
The buffer yard is based on use. And so the buffer yard requirements would be the same regardless of the zoning district. But again, going into the division's recommendation, it was based off of the overall categories of uses that would be permitted in the district, yeah.
Cool, understood. Thank you.
George, your reason for annexing is strictly for road access. That's the
Correct. Otherwise, we would simply ask for the rezoning of the portions of the back two properties and leave the other one in the county because they're already operating there. We were told that we wanted to make sure that none of the traffic came out on Smith Street. And so we've got 3 driveways on Atlas Road, which is a lot for those buildings, which is good. But all of that traffic will continue to stay through there and not come over onto Smith Street because they're going to be different parcels. It's going to be fenced off for safety and security. And we wouldn't have road access. In theory, we could use that little line that comes down, but that's already leased to somebody else. And we didn't want to have, we wanted to continue to keep as much of a buffer, maybe to Mr. Harp's comment, of light industrial all the way around it so that it did not have any other kinds of zoning between it and the heavy industrial.
How much buffering how much space is in that buffering zone?
So as the last page shows, and the Board of Zoning Appeals thought that sycamore trees would be better than cedar trees, so we're going to do what they asked and do that. But the line that you see there on that last page where the trees will be is there, and then there's all the other property that's going to stay light industrially zoned, and there's a patch of trees that's zoned M1 also. By that long driveway, for lack of a better term. It's not zoned residential either. It's zoned M1, light industrial and commercial. So we tried to be as sensitive as we can in the design of this. Again, we didn't want to do it. I feel like we're being pressed into this. But it's a solution to help this company grow in place and let them park their trucks back there, because we're doing truck parking and laydown yard for the remainder of the 13 acres. Actually, we're doing a truck driving school immediately adjacent to this, which is allowed in that light industrial zoning. So because this has got petroleum-based products in it, it falls under a different category in the city. That's really the only reason. And that's why I want to deed restrict it afterwards. Again, it can't be contingent on that, but I've already had the attorney draft the deed restrictions that we will put in place if it was to go on to be approved by y'all in City Council.
I have a staff question. Has there been any traffic study impact on what's going to do to Atlas Road with the trucks coming and going from this facility?
Not specific to this development.
Okay.
There are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's some penny projects on Atlas Road.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But, Atlas Road is a fairly well-trafficked road.
I just wondered. Thank you.
So if this stayed light industrial, there'd be no protection inherently for the tenant who's been operating there.
Well, the expansion would not be permitted, which is the heavy industrial use.
And there's no way, there's no text amendment that could be drafted to just allow that specific use and keep all the others out.
It's always possible to amend the text, but the, the classification of the particular use in question is, and I apologize, I might have it in my case summary, but it's a, hold on one second. It's a petroleum bulk station or terminal. And, in this case, a terminal is when I looked into the definition, it's a very large thing. And those are those things that you see those large domes, sometimes alongside interstates with, these would be smaller, but certainly much larger than you would see at like a gas station. These they're medium scale, but above ground tanks that hold petroleum products. And so that is so if it remains light industrial, then that would not be permitted.
If I might add, the tanks are going to be in building number 7, which is the second building from the back. So those will be inside, that's what I'm told.
Will those tanks be sitting there for a period of time, or will they come in today, go out today?
Okay, so good
about
question.
that.
So if you can see from the very first page, these are the kind of tanks that are what I would consider the medium size. They're not the 18-wheeler trucking size. The 18-wheelers that you see are bringing in other palletized stuff going inside the building, but the tanker trucks are these other ones that you see in the first picture there. The tanks that I think he's referring to are the ones that will be on the ground and permanently in the building. These are the trucks that, we're driving with on the roads right now, right beside them. And this gets, by being at this location and so close to the interstate, it gets them on the interstate without being on small roads the fastest. And let's see here, the other answer to that question, I was thinking with the tanks there, those other tanks that I think he's referring to are nothing like you see outside of Augusta that's look like an oil refinery. That's not what we're doing here. All we're doing here is these kinds of trucks and other 18-wheelers that may be empty or whatever they are in the back supporting the building services. So this is not a refinery. This isn't the giant tanks that you see. The best one I can think of is on the way to Augusta where you see it off to the right. They have a place in Charlotte like that where they send the smaller items in this size and other stuff that people will come pick up in their pickup truck.
Thank you. Other questions?
Pardon, and this might, I'm not sure if this is for staff or this is just me talking. Besides this a large parcel, besides the just adjacent parts on the far, with the screen I'm looking at, the far left and bottom of the top piece, those are the only ones that really are adjacent to, directly adjacent to residential. I mean, is there a required setback anyway? I mean, I think that's kind of what Mason was asking. I mean, I guess what I would hesitate to approve this if it was the next day a tank was going to be able to go up right beside somebody's backyard. I mean, is there any requirements for that to be a way, or if we zone it this way, they could just go right up to the edge of the fence and do whatever they want.
So again, to be clear, there is no part of either the parcel being annexed or the 4 acres that are being proposed for rezoning to heavy industrial that would be immediately adjacent to a residential district. But yeah, so with that said, the heavy industrial district, it is intended for those uses that tend to have impacts beyond the parcels that they're on.
One last question then. So with the current building, the structure that you gave us at 1703 Atlas Road, if I'm looking at it, does the trucks enter on the right side to go to the back, to the parking lot? The one that you provided for us today?
Right. The
This one.
trucks would be able to come along the railroad side to get to the back, as
Okay.
well as on the left side there. But
So it's both sides?
yeah, they can go on both sides, exactly.
Just right here, they've got this section is leased to someone else. So right there on that parcel.
Okay, well, I think.
Yeah, but to that point, none of it is next to any residential. We've gotten basically letters of approval from every side, across the railroad, there's the interstate, there's, this area here that we're going to keep, and across the street, 140 acres there too. So,
Are there houses on that Sweet Home Baptist Church site?
no,
Yeah.
no.
So if the church were to fulfill and have a construction on that property, then what happens?
We still have a light industrial buffer around it.
I'm just concerned about that piece. I'll be honest with you, in terms of the proximity of the trucks being parked close to a residential area, knowing that you're right, and that we pass by them every day on the highway. But I'm not living with them, I'm passing by them.
Right.
That's my concern.
And I guess the only thing I would say is they're already there. This is just helping an existing business grow.
I understand.
And I guess you got the Quick Trip, is that Quick Trip a truck stop Quick Trip too?
Yes,
Okay, so yeah, they're there.
they're there. They're there, and even more
And
coming
Atlas
with the Quick
Road
Trip. And Atlas Road is being widened to 5 lanes, so it's an industrial area. Got a train track there, actually 2 train tracks there, and the interstate itself, yeah.
I would just say as a general point of conversation, we say this often, I don't like to make a habit out of going against staff recommendation, but I think part of our role is to be a good steward for the growth of Columbia. And I feel like for us to prosper, helping businesses by leading with yes or making things easier, I think is important. So my inclination is to support it.
Are there any questions or any other comments from Planning Commission? Anything else from staff? Well, I'll entertain a motion for our next steps.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make
Sorry, did we already ask for a public comment? No. I don't think, did we? Okay, just in case.
Yeah.
Are we ready to proceed?
I just think we need to get public comment
Oh, okay.
before we get a motion.
I'm sorry. Are there any public comments concerning this request, or these requests?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve, that we recommend the approval of the request to assign the future land use classification of Annex 2025-0012 at 1703 Atlas Road, and request to assign the zoning classification for the property at 1703 at the time of annexation, outlined in section 17.2.5 in a unified development ordinance.
Second?
second.
It's been moved and second that we move forward with annexation number 2025-0012 at 1703 Atlas Road, TMS 16301-0204, and zoning 2025-0011, 1801 Smith Street, TMS 16301-0206.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, can we take each motion separately, please? We need two motions, one
Okay.
for the annexation and one for the map amendment. So, and I think your motion was just for the annexation? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The recommended land use and zoning. So, just to clarify, yeah.
Would you just restate your motion and we'll start over?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll state my motion again. I move that we recommend the approval of the request to assign the future land use classification of Annex 2025-0012 and the request to assign the zoning classification for the property at 1703 Atlas Road at the time of annexation as it meets the decision standards outlined in section 17.2.5 in the Unified Development Ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we move forward with annexation number 2025-0012, 1703 Atlas Road, TMS 16301-0204. Any questions? All those in favor, then let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Aye. Motion carried.
Motion passes 4-1, thank you.
Now we entertain a motion for the zoning map amendment for 1801 Smith Street. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the request to amend the zoning map for the property at 1801 Smith Street, TMS 16301-0206, of the request to amend the zoning map as it does not, excuse me, I apologize. Let me just redo that if that's okay, guys.
Sure.
I make a motion to approve the request of to amend the zoning map for the property at 1801 Smith Street as it meets the decision standards outlined in section 17.2.5 in the Unified Development Ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the zoning map amendment for TMS 16301-0206 and the zoning amendment number 2025-001. Are there any questions? All those in favor, then let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed is a nay. But motion's carried. Is there any other business that we need to entertain for today?
I don't think we have any other business today.
Okay. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn the meeting. So moved. Thank y'all very much.